Gaelic, and thanks, Minister, for coming to take this motion today, even though I know it was directed at Ministers Paschal Donoghue and Michael McGrath. You'd swear, listening to some of my colleagues on the left today, that this motion was seeking to divide Irish society. And I'm minded by something that Senator Flynn has just said, is that we need to look after our own. And the privilege of my career to date has been to be the Minister for Social Protection for 4 years, that role that you are privileged to hold today. And I absolutely know, and this motion as a co-drafter leads out with the fact that we absolutely need to secure a very comprehensive welfare package to ensure that all of those people that are on that single fixed income that they receive from the state are well protected from the cost of living. But I also will make absolutely no apologies for recognising that we have a squeezed middle, that if we do not recognise that they cannot afford the cost of living increases that have taken place in this country in the last 6 to 9 months, they are going to become the new vulnerable group because they will not be able to afford their household incomes, and we will end up calling them the new working poor. So I make no apologies for looking for the bands of the social services that are supported through subsidies in the state to be extended to include people earning 30, 40, 50 and 60 grand a year. And the subsidies that I'm looking to have extended by the Minister for Public Expenditure and Finance are the Child Subsidy Scheme that we know has a band rate of between 26,000 and 60,000 at the moment. But if you earn 26,000, you get a sizable portion of your childcare fees paid for you. But as you go up the band, the wages earnings, to 40 to 50 and even 60 grand, people are telling us that the amount of money that they get versus the cumbersome access to the support grants nearly negates their ability to be able to actually have any impact on their childcare costs whatsoever. My colleague Maria Byrne talked about the cost of education. We want to decrease the cost of the fees in universities, and the Minister for Education, Higher Education said that here this morning. But more importantly, we want to widen the access for SUSI grants so that people who are earning, yes, a decent wage, but those people who are earning 40 grand a year, who are paying an enormous whack of their wages in tax, actually get access to those SUSI grants because they're currently precluded. We want to look at the cost of healthcare, and yes, in the last budget it was welcome that the prescription charges were reduced from 120 down to 80, but I really believe we can go further, and we need to look at parking charges in our hospitals. And I absolutely call for the permanent reduction of the 20% that was introduced in our transport fees and costs a couple of weeks ago to be made permanent. But really for me today is something for the Minister for Finance, and I know he's been asked by the leaders of the coalition to look at this, but this is nearly to demand that we seriously look at introducing a 30% tax rate in this country. For years we've been talking about the fact that people pay the 40% far, far too early, and they're paying it at 36 grand, which could only be caused an average wage at this stage. It's far too early to be paying 40% in tax, and I know we try and protect them every year for any increases that they might get in their salaries by widening the bands of the PRSI and the USC. But I have to tell you, to my mind, that's not good enough. We need to seriously think over the next number of years, and I know it's not cheap. I know to introduce the 30% at the same rate as the 40% is paid this year could cost anything up to 1.5 billion per year over the next number of years. But we are in the absolutely lucky position of having more people working in this state than we've ever had in the history of the state. Those working people who are going out early in the morning, working long and hard days and struggling the same as everybody else is on the fixed income with the living costs need to make sure that they know that we value the fact that work pays better. And right now, it absolutely doesn't. And if we don't do something serious, like introduce a 30% tax rate in the next year or coming years and indicate how that roadmap is going to be made out, well then we're at a next to nothing, because we've been talking about it for far too long. And the last thing I want to say to you, Minister, is that whilst I absolutely believe it's government's responsibility to respond to its people's needs in a sustainable and a comprehensible way, and that will happen through the budget, I'll make a call publicly here tonight that I made privately at our meeting earlier on. We cannot wait until October or indeed January to recognise that petrol at $2.25 a litre in my local petrol station is absolutely unsustainable, even for the people that the left would call wealthy. It is not acceptable that government does not respond by a financial resolution, and it absolutely must be done sooner rather than later. And it's really, really difficult difficult to justify that the government's tax take on the increased prices of petrol has absolutely gone through the roof, while everybody is struggling knowing that their costs of petrol, diesel and indeed even green diesel has gone through the roof. We need to respond, and we need to respond now. So I thank you for coming and for your responses to date. I want to acknowledge just genuinely the response by the government, particularly you with regard to fuel allowance over the last number of months, because recognising that people do need help. But they need help more with regard to their energy costs. The PSO levy yesterday was a welcome change, but we need to see changes on the price of petrol and diesel in our forecourts, and we need to see it now.